Welcome to Pearls of Wisdom, your guide to extraordinary weddings and events. I'm your host, Ashley Miner, and we're here to share expert insights and inspiring stories. Let's dive into the art of creating unforgettable moments. Welcome, Carley. I'm so glad that you're here with us. Pearls of Wisdom, episode whatever we're on. So typically when we start this out, I thank people for coming, obviously, but I want you to introduce yourself, what you do, how you got here, all of those fun details.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me. Mm-hmm. I'm super excited to be here and just sort of share my story a little bit. So I have actually owned Carley Jean's Floral for almost 5 years now, which is just like totally crazy to think of. Considering I started it in college when I was 19 or 18.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I knew you were in college when you kind of
Yes.
started the ramp up.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. So it was actually super unexpected. I got a job working at Mosier's, like the grocery store, literally in the flower department, like the summer after my freshman year of college. And I was working at the grocery store in the floral department, and I literally loved it. Like, I never thought I'd be so excited to go and work at a grocery store every day, but I was. And I just really fell in love with like all things flowers and wanted to learn like everything I could, and just became a total sponge, and would show up to work every day asking a million questions. And then from there, by the end of the summer, I told my boss, I was like, I think I really want to do this. Like, I want to do this as a job, because I was undecided in college. I didn't even want to go to college. It was a whole thing. And my boss just really pushed me, and she was like, okay, then do it. So right when I turned 19, like right around that time, I just applied for my tax ID and became a certified business owner and got connected with a wholesaler and just kind of took it from there.
Oh my gosh. That's really crazy, because I think obviously you were really lucky to just get like
super lucky.
This random summer job, and you're like, wait, this is really awesome. What about it really like kind of made that connection for you? Was it like you went to a wedding and you were like, oh, this is so fun? Or was it just like the day-to-day creative aspects, or like what kind of flipped that switch for you?
Yeah, I feel like I've always been, is it the left side of your brain that's more creative, they say? Like,
I think it's right.
Or you're right. I don't know, whichever side it is.
Peanut gallery, do we know?
I have definitely always been way more creative. Was never like a textbook or like school, like I loved going to school because I loved talking to people, right? But I never was like AP classes or had any sort of scholarships. And so like I knew for my future career, it was going to have to be something more creative and more fun. I could never be a corporate girly or a nurse or anything like that. And so I was just trying to think of like, what's something that I feel like I can do where you make a decent living, but I also feel like I can use creativity. And I feel like I have a pretty good eye for colors and things like that. And it was actually my freshman year of college, like a flower truck came to campus where you could like build your own bouquet. And I literally was so obsessed. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And I was like, this is it. This is it, flowers, which is so funny because the high school I went to had no sort of ag program. I had no like history and floriculture. I know a lot of florists do, and they grew up in FFA and things like that, which is great. But I didn't. And so honestly, it was just kind of like a God thing. Flowers just kind of breezed into my life, and I was like, yep, that's it. That's what I want to do.
And since then, you've pretty much been drinking out of a fire hose. Because you do a bajillion weddings in a year.
Yeah.
With hardly any being local. So you live in Fulton, but you're mainly in the St. Louis area.
Yeah, that's correct. Most of my clientele is in the St. Louis area, which I'm not exactly sure why. I don't know if it's because I grew up in the St. Louis area, and so like I just started like knowing people there, and they would have me do their weddings or what it was. But yeah, I do live in Fulton, but most of my clientele's in St. Louis. But I don't really see it as an issue at all. It's like an hour and a half drive. And how I look at it is if I had to commute to work during the week, you know, if I had to commute to Columbia every day, 30, 40 minutes one way, it's just as much, if not less driving, but I just do it in one day on the weekends.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really mind it. And I've like became really great friends with a lot of St. Louis vendors and really familiar with a lot of venues, but I definitely would love more local clientele like Columbia, Mid-Mo. That would be ideal.
Yeah. I think if I think back to my early days, you know, I worked a lot at Cooper's Ridge because I was good friends with them. It was a pretty natural referral source. And so as I got my start, it just was like word of mouth. Oh, we use Delight Events. You're getting married at Cooper's Ridge. You should also use Delight Events. So I would assume it was the same for you.
Yeah.
You know, at the beginning, you have 10 in St. Louis. Well, those people just keep telling their friends. The venues know you. And
Yeah. Which honestly is such a great blessing. And I'm so glad I can do this full time and I can do florals full time, because there was definitely a time period there in college where I had my business and it was really great, but it was more of like a side hustle, and that underlying stress would be like, okay, well, you know, I graduate in X amount of years, like this is what I'm banking on. Like, this is what I want to do.
Or I guess this can continue to be my side hustle, but what do I want to do for the full time?
Exactly. So yeah, definitely just feel like I've gone like pedal to the metal and just really full sent it ever since the beginning, because I was sort of riding all my chips on this one hand.
So what did you end up studying in college?
Yeah, so I did get a degree.
Yeah, congrats.
Thank you. Actually, my family jokes that it's my husband's degree because senior year of college, I was just so deep into the flowers and school was such an afterthought. I literally took like the second half of college online so I could do all these weddings, because there's no way I can make a Friday lecture if I have a wedding in St. Louis on a Friday, right?
And you were in school in Springfield.
Yes, I went to Missouri State in Springfield.
Holy
so
moly.
It was just like all over. But so I took the majority of my like second half of college online, and all my family jokes that it's actually my husband's degree because he took many classes for me.
Nice.
And did many assignments for me because I was so focused on the flowers. I was like, these assignments aren't getting done. So who actually got the degree, that's up for debate. But
it's fine. Missouri State, do not watch this.
Yeah, don't come at me. But no, I have my degree in hospitality.
Nice.
So I feel like that.
So it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I feel like that's the closest thing, because you don't technically need a degree to be a florist or a wedding florist. So I feel like that is probably the next closest thing would be hospitality, events and things like that. And so, that's why I have my degree in.
I got my degree in sport management, and then I have most of my master's done in family ministry, family studies.
Okay, yes.
And I had no clue what I wanted to do, but I knew I had to go to school because I was being forced to do 4 years of college. Not forced. Mima, do not come at me for that comment. You did not force me. I had a great college experience. I loved it, but I'm not using my degree really at all, except for I took a lot of business classes, which I think maybe does help. All of that to say, I pretty much only graduated because I had one credit that was very hard for me, and that was Spanish. Because I was being taught Spanish by a Korean man, and English was his third language.
Okay, good.
And he only passed me because he thought I was dating the TA. And we just fully rode that for 2 semesters.
You have to.
I was like, oh yeah, JP, love you so much.
See you later, babe. Yeah.
And we were a Christian school. So like if you did not graduate without being engaged or having a boyfriend, like you were probably never getting married a day in your life.
Sure.
And so I was like, oh yeah, me and JP, long time loves. And Professor Chang was like,
I got to help this girl out.
Here you go.
Oh,
gave me a huge hug at graduation. I was like, oh, thank you.
That's so amazing. That's amazing.
Okay, so you kind of started ramping up in college.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, was it just like, here we go, you're being shot out of a barrel? Or has it kind of been a slow increase?
So my first year I ever did weddings. So I started the business in 2019.
Okay.
Right. And in 2019, I was just like doing the side hustle hobby things. So I had a little flower cart. I'd wheel around campus and sell bouquets at Greek life events.
What
and
a great idea.
And I'd like go to fraternities and be like, I have all these flowers, like you need to buy these flowers, you know, and it was really fun. I really, really liked it. And that was sort of what 2019 looked like. And then someone asked me to do a wedding for 2020. And I thought, well, it makes more sense to do a $5,000 wedding than a $50 arrangement, right? And so that's when I sort of started switching gears and solely focusing on just wedding flowers. And they were like, have you ever done a wedding? I was like, nope, but I can do it. No problem. Yep.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, fake it till you make it. It'll be okay. So that first year in 2020, I had 10 weddings. And I was a sophomore / junior in college. And I thought, look out, world. Right? I thought that was incredible.
We're doing it.
Yeah. I was like, this is it. Right? And then I was so blessed that the next year in 2021, I had like 47 weddings.
Holy moly.
So it just like totally blew up, which was really great. And so then I sort of started like taking my social media more seriously and like really like diving deeper into investing in my business and like buying coolers and finding places to work and things like that. And ever since then, it's just slowly sort of increased another 10 or so weddings every year. So this year we have 71 weddings.
Oh my gosh.
And but
I'm like hives a little bit. Like, oh my gosh.
But the like great side of it is I finally found like some people to add to my team that are just absolutely wonderful. I cannot speak highly enough of these people who help me and work for me because it truly does take a village. And there's no way I can sit here and take credit for that many weddings and that much clientele.
Let's talk about the people who help you because I adore them.
Oh, they're the cutest. Yes.
So, fun fact, you have 2 high school boys who are your main employees.
Yes. It's actually, so it's super funny because when I like tell people like, oh yeah, I have some high schoolers who work for me because I also have some high school girls who I absolutely adore. They come with such a great attitude and like just do anything I ask and I just appreciate them so much. But my 2 like main designers per se, probably that like come with me most to wedding setup or like help me make the most are 2 senior boys in high school.
Yeah.
And they are extremely talented. They like went to nationals at like floral design and FFA, and I believe they got like 10th overall or 8th. I don't know. They placed in nationals. They did really great.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. And they're also like total studs too. Like they play basketball and they're really great at basketball. They're both going to be college athletes and they just seriously do everything. It's insane.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this, but next steps for them, I mean, they're going to college. They're going to have a wildly different life than, what it is currently, but they've both pretty much committed to continue helping you.
Yes, which is like such a blessing because I told them, so it was like around Christmas time, I gave all my employees like a little Christmas gift or whatever. And I saw them around Christmas and I was like, so how's the college hunt going, boys? And they're like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, if you care to know, I have your entire college plan figured out. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. So one of them is looking at, I'm pretty sure he committed to go to college in Fulton. Perfect, William Woods. And I told him, I was like, Isaiah, you can just go to college in Fulton. And then the other boy, Sam, was looking at a college in St. Louis. And I was like, and then Sam, you go to college in St. Louis. So Isaiah, you can work for me all throughout college, right there in town, like make your money, it'll be great. And then on the weekends, if we go to St. Louis for a wedding, Sam, you can just pop over and help with wedding setup. And then everyone's happy and it's a win-win.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, I didn't think of that. That's a really good idea. And I'm like, yeah, see, I have it all figured out. Now
there
you both just need to go to college there. So
that's awesome. But you have some other people that help you as well. Like you have some kind of like freelance florists who jump in when you need to because obviously, as you said, there's no way you could do 70 plus weddings.
Yeah. All by myself.
By yourself.
Yeah, no way. So actually, my husband's a teacher.
Okay.
And one of his coworker Mr. Rao, his wife, Tanya, is like the sweetest woman ever. She currently owns a daycare, but she's looking to close it and sort of retire from that chapter of her life. And so she has just like jumped in 10 toes down, wanting to learn everything about flowers. I'm even teaching her how to design a bit. She's like delivering a wedding for me this weekend because I have somewhere I need to be. And she's like crucial because she's just sort of my all around gal. And then I also have a couple people in St. Louis. So if we are doing a really large wedding in St. Louis, I have a couple florists that I like to call up and be like, hey, you know, can you come and help us with this? Even my sisters will get involved if needed. And so, yeah, it really is a super great feeling knowing I have like so many hands available when I need them.
That's awesome. So when we're thinking of floral design, there's obviously so many different styles out there. There's, you know, real classic. It's what I call, no offense, it's what I would call like a grocery store style.
Sure.
It's like very classic.
I call it like old lady. Yeah. Like an old lady look. Sure.
We have those real packed tight arrangements. We have more organic, more like everyone has their space. How would you classify yours?
I feel like I have a very flexible design style because with doing 70 some weddings a year, you get weddings from all across the board, right? You get people who love a more classic look. You get people who want something more out of the box. You get a wildflower. I mean, you just get everything. So I'd like to think that I can kind of be a chameleon and like do whatever design style people need and want. My preference is I really love color and like whimsical florals. That's what I did for my wedding, and that would probably be my first choice, but I also can definitely get down and do like all white flowers, or I've even had people who wanted like an electric blue and purple wedding, and it was like, okay, sure, let's do it, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That was going to be the next thing that I brought up was your wedding, because that's how I first learned about you, was you were one of the first Fox Hollow brides.
Yeah, pretty early on.
Yeah, I mean, you were probably in the first 10, at least, that they had. And I remember seeing your ceremony set up and being like, who did the flowers? And Christy was like, actually, she's a florist herself. You totally need to know her. And I started stalking you on Instagram, and I was like, that's it. I have to find a way to work with her.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I never realized that. That's hilarious.
I was a Carley fangirl before.
Oh my gosh. Stop. No. But yes, we got married in Fox Hollow of October in 22. And Fox Hollow, I can't even speak like highly enough of them. All of them were so sweet, and I came to them wanting like a gazillion flowers, and they were like just as excited as I was, which was a super great feeling.
Because the cool thing about Fox Hollow, and we'll have them on the podcast at some point, but the cool thing about them is they're a completely blank slate.
Blank slate.
You it is a white box.
Yes, you can make that place whatever you want it to be. There's so many like options on how you want like the feel of your wedding to be there, which I loved personally because I saw it as an empty canvas just to fill with flowers. So,
and you did, including the whole pathway down.
Yeah, like super long pathway. I wanted it to look like a fresh flower field, right? And so we stuck carnations in the ground and just
how
with
many?
water
Because I know you've told me before.
600 carnations going down to the altar before you reached like the 20 floor pieces to the 2 7-foot columns. Like it was just way over the top, but I was super lucky because we had the venue the day before, right? So we could do the majority of it. And my husband and my best friend, my maid of honor, they quite literally filled up and capped and stuck in the ground 600 water tubes so we could come in the next day and poke in the carnations. Yes. And that's how I knew. I'm like, yep, I'm making the right decision marrying him. Yes. He's doing this and not complaining about it.
Can confirm, met him a couple weeks ago. Yes. Got to spend a couple hours with him. Sweetest man alive. Yes. And he freaking adores you.
Yeah, he's the best ever.
I've asked him, I'm like, so like, does Carley really have to convince you to help her? Are you like happy to do it? And he's like, oh, I'll do anything she wants me to do. I'm like,
Yeah. No, it wasn't going to work if it wasn't like that. And I bet your husband probably feels the same way when you're like, when you're married to someone who owns a business that is like your whole life. That is like literally your baby.
I would definitely say early days.
Early days.
Scott was like,
honeymoon stage,
sure,
total bliss.
I'll help you, whatever you need. I mean, so I don't know if I've told this story to very many people, but I had a sweet bride and groom who contacted me, I think 2 weeks before their wedding. And they said, oh my gosh, we've totally dropped the ball. They were a 2020 couple. They were supposed to get married in April. They did, but they postponed their reception. And they contacted me 2 weeks before, like, we don't have literally anything ready to go. And we just realized this and we need help. Can you do it? I was 8.5 months pregnant.
Oh, no. With doggy?
I went to my doctor and I was like, can I do this? I don't want to just say yes to these people to say yes. She was like, you are showing no signs of going into labor. You are totally fine. You can totally do it. And I worked all my pregnancy and felt totally fine. Mr. Augie decided to hospitalize me 3 weeks in a row. And my doctor finally was like, and we're inducing you tonight. And their wedding was on Saturday. That was Tuesday.
No.
And I was like, no, you're not. I'll come in. I'll come in on
I have
Saturday
somewhere
night.
to be. I was like,
I will be here on Saturday night. And I grew up 3 doors down from her. And she was like, I could never look at your family if something was to happen to you or this baby. It's happening like today. And I was like, okay.
So you can't argue that.
Scott Miner went and worked that wedding for me with my intern.
Oh my
on Saturday.
gosh.
Did they FaceTime me 47,000 million trillion times?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we got through it.
Yep.
That
I'm sure it
couple
was great.
Amazing. So yes, Scott Miner was very willing to help in the beginning stages. Now he's like, you have Monica, ask Monica.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. Drew's starting to tiptoe that line too. Definitely with having like all of the extra hands we have now. He's like, well, what are they doing? Are they busy? And I'm like, okay, yep, I'll check. So
yeah, I know. I asked him to help me unload from a styled shoot the other day, unload my truck that had been packed for 2 days. And he was like, oh, okay. And I'm just like, okay, we're out of the honeymoon business and personal life phase.
Right.
Got it.
Right.
Okay, so your wedding was absolutely amazing. That's when I started stalking you, becoming obsessed with you. But we've had a couple of weddings together since. Most notably, we did one at the atrium together where you brought the boys, and I was so blown away with them. And that was a white floral wedding, which I don't think
all white, no
either
greens.
of us would be like, oh, that's 100% our style. But it was really beautiful.
Yeah, I think
modern,
we pulled that off wonderfully.
and amazing.
Yes, 100%.
What have been some of your favorite weddings that you've been able to do?
I really love when I get to go work at a venue. This is so there's a venue like sort of South City, St. Louis, like in Peevely, called Notting Hills. And
Beautiful.
It's like a whole village. It is so amazing. I really love when I get to go there. That's also the furthest I will travel, is to like Peevely. That's probably about the furthest I'll go for weddings. I don't typically try to go any further than that. But I always love working there because typically those clients are going to do something more like Grandiosa and have some really, really beautiful florals. Actually, this past August, we did a wedding in downtown St. Louis at the Coronado, and that one I really loved too. It was actually for a couple who grew up and lived in St. Louis, but now they live in New York, and she's like, she works for like Cosmopolitan or something, right? So she just had incredible vision, right? She knew exactly what she wants and she knew exactly how she wanted it. And I loved all of her ideas. And that wedding ended up being super, super pretty. It actually got published in St. Louis Magazine, which was a really fun feeling to see that. Really loved that one. But then sometimes like I also really appreciate and love the like sweeter, smaller weddings because it feels way more intimate sometimes. But I definitely try to encourage my clients to do what they want to do. Because the thing is, when you're getting married, it can feel super easy to like see what's trending and feel like you need to do that and like just follow someone else's footsteps. But I think your wedding should be the perfect like place to express you and your like spouse's love together.
Yeah, I was just having that conversation with two of my girlfriends this morning about how sometimes our brides can be super TikTok obsessed. And that is almost to their detriment because they'll change their mind 40 times or they'll say, but I saw this and I really love this. And then I'll say, well, what do you love about that? And they can't identify it because it doesn't, if you can't identify it, it doesn't actually resonate with you.
Right.
It's just a cute idea.
You see it trending. You're like, oh, okay, I like that too then.
Right. It's a cool idea. But what about that do you actually love? You know? And if you can't identify that, we're probably not going to incorporate it.
Right. Exactly. And I think that's why it's like super crucial for brides to have someone like you and like your team, someone to bounce ideas off of and someone who clearly knows all the ins and outs of weddings, because the majority of our clients, right, have never gotten married before.
Right.
This is their first time. Maybe they've been a maid of honor, you know, maybe their sister got married or something, but this is typically the first time they have gotten married. And so that just leads a lot of like questions and a lot of open doors. And anyone who's been married or anyone who knows when you are engaged and you're planning a wedding, it's like a rabbit hole. So many things come up that you would never even think of. Planning and floral wise, like there's so many small details, and that's why it's really important to choose your vendors wisely and have a good team to help guide you and make those like decisions. You know?
And I will add to that, people that you vibe with, because if you can't go to your planner or your florist or your caterer with ideas and feel comfortable talking about those, it's not going to feel right on the day of.
Right. Exactly. And that's the type, and like your wedding day is full of so many feelings that you want them all to be positive feelings, right? You want to feel comfortable with your photographer. You want to trust your florist. You want to have faith in your planner. You want to love your venue, right? And so it's really crucial to be like careful in picking those things, and it's okay to like check in with several different florists or check in with several different planners until you feel like you have one that's the right fit.
Yeah, 1,000%. I feel like on the planning side, even when I come to you, you know, with, hey, we're bidding this all out. I've shown them your Instagram. I've shown them work that we've done together, but we're also talking to XYZ person, just so you know. You know, I always try to be very upfront about that.
Oh, yeah. And that's so appreciated. And I also, something like I feel like I'm super in favor of for the wedding industry is like collaboration over competition. Anytime someone like sends an inquiry or reaches out to me, and I'm not available, I'm so quick to recommend, I'm not available, but here's 5 other florists that I love,
right,
that you should definitely check into. Right. And I know I have florists that do the same for me, and that's just such a better feeling of like helping each other fill each other's buckets rather than just like trying to hoard or gatekeep all the clientele to yourself.
Yes, I would totally agree. Would you say that a lot of your weddings are done with or without a planner?
I'd say in the beginning without, right? When I was like having smaller clienteles, I had a lower minimum.
Lower budget.
Yeah. Typically more nowadays it's with a planner, and that is like a dream come true, right? Working with a professional who I can have an open line of communication with, someone who can send me all the details and fill me in exactly what I need to know, rather than someone's like aunt or friend or cousin who could be a super sweet individual, but like if I ask about XYZ and they don't know it, it just makes the whole day harder. Not even for the florist, but for everyone. You know, it doesn't run as smoothly when you don't have a professional overseeing the day.
I think something that I've started realizing and wrapping my head around too is there is a difference in the professional communication that someone who is in this industry day in and day out can give. They know expectations, they know norms, they know boundaries.
And problem solving.
Right. Versus someone who pops in, pops out, maybe does it part-time, maybe, it's just an aunt helping.
Sure.
It's a little more like demanding communication or demanding things on the day of versus like, hey, I know you're going to get to it when you get to it.
Yeah.
I have faith that you're going to do your job. I don't have to worry about it. Versus, Aunt Polly is like, tell me what you're doing right
what
now.
do you need? What do you need? Yeah. And it's like, I don't know what I need. I need you to do your job. Yeah, no, definitely.
I had a family member of a bride lately who said about a florist that they were working with. And they said, well, have you even walked through a garden with this florist? And I cannot hide my expressions.
Yeah.
And I was like,
what?
what does that even mean? I've
Yeah.
never heard of that. Is that something that used to happen? And I looked at her and I just said, what do you mean by that? And she was like, well, does she even know what these flowers are that are written down? And the bride was like, yep, I've looked them all up. And you could tell she was just like,
Yeah.
Yeah. It was really interesting.
Yeah. And there's so many emotions too on the morning of a wedding and like setting up the wedding, and you're on a time crunch, right? Like you're on a time limit, right? And time can always add stressors. And so when something hits the fan, it's also nice to work with a wedding planner because 99% of the time they're going to have some sort of connection, or they can call someone, or they've been in this situation.
Our team will hop in and help, or whatever it is.
Yes, exactly.
The interesting thing too, and you have way more experience in this than I do, but St. Louis venues are very different than mid-Missouri venues, where mid-Missouri venues will say, okay, you have access from 8 a.m. until 12 a.m.
Yeah, a dream. Yeah.
St. Louis is like, hey, your reception starts at 6, you get access at 3.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. That is a real thing.
The teams are rushing in there to get everything done before guests show up in 3 hours.
Right. And like sometimes, and then you always have grandparents or family members who show up 45 minutes early to the wedding, right? So essentially your time's getting even smaller and you want to be cleaned up, swept, everything packed in the car by then. Right. The last thing I want is to look unprofessional and like scrambling around while guests are arriving. That is probably that is my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of St. Louis places are starting to do that. They're starting to set like bigger time limits or smaller time limits, which just can be a little stressful. So that's when we have to sort of shift our dynamic. Like, okay, let's literally think, how much of this can we make beforehand humanly possible? Like, how much of this can we make beforehand so when we get on site, it's just setting things out or hanging things up rather than making more things on site. But that trickles down to, okay, well, if we're going to make more things in the studio before we bring it to the wedding, how are we going to get it there if we're making all these big pieces rather than making it there? And so then this past year, we bought a new van, right? Bought a bigger van because we need a bigger van because we're doing bigger weddings. And we're also trying to combat that where we have smaller time windows so we can fit more beforehand.
Yeah.
And it's just like a chain reaction that I don't think a lot of people spend too much time thinking about, but it's a real thing for sure.
Yeah. Let's talk about how cute your van is. Did you drive it here?
No,
Dang
I
it.
didn't. Because it's like driving a bus.
Yeah.
I literally feel like I'm up in a semi, like driving a bus. No, its name is Poppy. I love her. I can't wait to use her this year.
It's branded completely.
Super branded. Pro Designs did amazing wrapping
So
it.
cute.
Yeah. We worked a lot on that, sending each other a lot of ideas back and forth. And I'm like super, super happy with how it came out. And I just like keep thinking in my head, like when I daydream about it, I just keep thinking of like literally filling it jam packed with flowers. And I just can't wait to have that moment where you just like open the door and it's just like everything's made and ready. Yeah.
And your wedding season starts in like 2 weeks. So you'll have that moment.
I will have many of those moments. Many of those moments, especially in May and June, we have a lot going on. But yeah, I'm like excited for it. I don't like, weirdly enough, I don't feel like stressed. I don't know. I feel like I probably should feel stressed. Talk to me in 2 months, see how I feel. But like as of right now, I just feel very excited. Like I am so excited to get the ball rolling and like get back to working because I've been on my off season.
Yeah. So. And you've had some really fun adventures in your off season. And I think that's what's nice too about this industry is you go, but then you can really, really take a step back and rest and like have a slower season to work on your business, not always in it. And that's not the norm, I know, for most business owners. They're probably always in the business.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's really nice to have those couple of months at least.
Oh, yeah, to like
chill.
reset and get caught up on inquiries and emails and make more content and update your website. And
Yeah.
I feel like my life is a running to-do list. I always have a to-do list of things to do, but I wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah, I feel that. So let's talk about some goals. What's the future looking like?
So probably the biggest goal on my like forefront is I really want a new studio space. So currently we actually work out of the basement of my home, which actually for what it is works out really great because it's a walkout basement. So our driveway's right there. So we can the flowers get delivered right in through there. We can load the car right through there. We built a walk-in cooler in the basement that gets to the perfect temperature we need. We have workstations and then like the big, those big like 3-well sinks with the sprayer you see in a restaurant. Have one of those we installed in the basement.
Nice.
Made the place super cute, of course. And so I
You
love
can have
it.
your puppies down there.
Oh yeah, all my little coworkers. But so that's
If you guys have not seen these dogs, go to Carly's Instagram immediately and see how cute her 3
they're
dogs
like
are.
our children. They're literally our children.
They are so cute, and I've met them, and they're a handful, and I love them so much.
Oh yeah, they like are the perfect type of chaos that we always need. But
I love it.
I love this studio space as it is for now, considering I literally started in my parents' garage.
Right.
Like I had a folding table and a trash can and like a little cooler in my parents' garage. And like
Crazy.
I was making weddings out of there.
Yeah.
So considering we started from that, I'm extremely grateful for like what I have now, but it can feel a little tight. And like, especially if I have a couple people coming over to work and 3 dogs and we're doing a big wedding and we're running out of cooler space.
Or you're doing multiple weddings in a weekend.
Yeah. The
That's a
most
lot.
weddings I've ever done in a weekend is 5 weddings in one
Sheesh.
weekend. And so like when we have something like that on our calendar, the studio can feel pretty small. And so my next goal is me and my husband would like to eventually move within the next couple of years, but the housing market is just crazy right now. You can't find anything. And if you do find something, you need at least $3 million.
Yeah. Yep. I feel that.
And so, but we really, really would like if we could have a house and then just like, I would love if I could just have a whole detached garage, like just a 3-car garage or whatever it be, just a whole detached building for my studio. So we can have a bigger cooler and bigger workspaces and just have even more room to create even more magic.
Yeah. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
One other goal that you mentioned earlier in the podcast and kind of also leads me into something else is you said you would love to do more mid-Missouri weddings.
Yes.
Which will probably be on the horizon pretty quickly here because your mom is building a wedding venue in Fulton.
Yes, that is right. My mom, so, you say like, I have been drinking out of a fire hose, right? Because I do 70 plus weddings a year. Well, that is the woman I get it from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally,
Well, and she's been an entrepreneur your entire life.
Yes,
so
exactly.
obviously
Both
you
of my
had a really
parents own
great-
businesses,
Yeah.
and I think both of my parents are a little bit of workaholics, but that's all right. It's a good gene to carry down.
That's what I tell myself about Augie. I'm like, I'm doing him a service.
Yeah, I am actually going to make him a better person by this.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are opening a super, super wonderful venue. It's the Callaway Jewel. It's going to be in Fulton. So they actually bought, I believe it's a 12-acre estate, and it has a vineyard and a pool and beautiful sceneries, and driving up to it is kind of like plantation style lined with the trees. And my mom has actually wanted to have a wedding venue for over 20 years. And she has quite literally had the name the Callaway Jewel picked out since I was a kid.
Oh my gosh.
And so I would remember I was like 8 or 9, and my mom would be talking about, one day when she owns her venue, blah, 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 blah. And we would talk about growing up. She'd be like, when I own the Jewel, when I have the Callaway Jewel, I'm going to do this and this and this. Which is just crazy to like finally see her dream come to life. It's been 20 some years in the making. And they've pursued and looked into a couple other places to have a venue, and it wasn't perfect, and we just think it wasn't God's timing, because looking back at those other like properties or venues they've thought about purchasing or like have looked into won't even hold a flame to what the Jewel is going to be.
Oh, no.
And so it's super, super exciting. And selfishly, I'm very excited because it's like 2 miles from my house, right? And so having to go 2 miles for a wedding compared to almost 2 hours is going to feel like an absolute dream.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really is so beautiful as is. It's just, it's a home. It was somebody's home for forever.
Yes.
And then now the home is kind of functioning as bridal suite, honeymoon suite, small event space.
Yep. Cocktail hour.
With the pool and the beautiful courtyard and everything. And then the actual venue is being built behind the house.
Yes, that's correct. And so they're pouring the concrete and doing all the construction to build the actual reception center right now. Because something, especially in mid-Missouri, that seems to be a reoccurring, not problem, but a recurring theme is there's a lot of beautiful venues, but there is not one venue that you can have a completely indoor ceremony and reception without a room flip needed.
Right.
Because that takes a lot of freaking space, right?
Sure does.
And so this is something that we're going to provide that we're really excited about. So we're going to have the building. It's going to be a lot of windows, a lot of French doors, chandeliers, very like classy type feel. But then we're also building an offshoot off the building that's going to be the chapel room. So you can get married in the chapel room, have, you know, floor to ceiling windows, big chapel room, have your ceremony in there if the weather's bad, and then we'll just pull back the doors and your reception's right there. Which
So
will
kind
be
of
really
West
great.
Wind Hills-ish vibe.
Yeah, definitely that sort of vibe. Even Notting Hill vibes, I would say both of those are like your top tier venues in the St. Louis area. And I think they're ran so well and designed so beautifully. They definitely played a big sort of inspo of trying to bring that charm to Midmo because it just feels like it might be missing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think a light, bright, and airy, big venue in mid-Missouri is definitely something to add into the mix.
Yeah. And it'll be really great, too, because we also, on the property, have a 4-car detached garage. And on the top part of that detached garage is a full apartment, like a complete apartment. And that's going to be the groom's quarters, right? Because I feel like a lot of venues, sometimes the groom's quarters is like an afterthought. So it's not very big or like it's just not.
Or the guys are just getting ready in a bar area.
Yeah, right. And so this is like a whole actual like house essentially for the grooms. And the bridal suite is the whole upstairs of the house. I believe the bridal suite is over 1,800 square
huge.
feet. It's massive. It has its own balcony, right? So just plenty of space. And also the venue is going to be made to accommodate a lot of people too. So yeah, we're just like super excited about it. And I'm really excited to see all of my parents' hard work come to life and stuff. And they were out there, they've been out there last 3 days with hundreds of pounds of mulch. They're moving and they're mulching the whole property, and they're just, I mean, they're really putting all their blood, sweat, and tears into it.
Yeah. I got to go, and we just need to have Linda on the podcast, but I got to go out there in the fall when she had
when we just purchased it.
First got the keys, and to see it 3 weeks ago or whenever it was when we went out there for our vendor happy hour, I was like, oh my gosh, you have done so much. And then she's just moving 20 miles a minute.
She never stops.
No.
She just go.
And she's like,
go.
okay, and this is next. And what do you think about this? And we're going to do this over here. And did you know that this and da-da-da-da? And I'm like,
yeah,
girl, I thought I was go.
No,
You're like me on steroids.
No, literally, that's her, and that's how I am too. And so, Drew, my husband, and I joke about it because he calls me like go gadget, and he was like, "You're literally go gadget, like you just don't stop." And I'm like, "There's just too much to be done. You know, I'll sleep when I'm dead," type thing.
Yeah,
so
do it. I always tell everybody this, like, just do it while you're young.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. And something my dad also being someone who's worked extremely hard my whole life, something my dad has like always told me and all of my siblings. He's always told us like, don't cheat the grind. There's no easy way out. Like you just need to work really hard. And so that's what we all do. And we don't cheat the grind, you know. So
America, take note.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
don't get me
literally.
started.
So they're crazy.
So so mental note, get Linda on the podcast.
Yes.
And we need to go out there.
Yes.
Okay, so the last question that I always ask all of our guests is, if you were not doing floral design and making this your career, what would you want to be doing? You can be as outlandish as you want.
That's a really, really great question. A couple of things come to mind. When I was a kid, I always wanted to be a baker.
Okay.
So I feel like maybe something like that. One of my favorite.
Are you good at baking?
I like to think I'm decent at it. I'm by no means a professional, but like one of my favorite parts about a wedding, one of my favorite small details is getting put the flowers on the cake. I don't know if it's like scratching that itch from when I was a kid.
Probably.
Yeah. So probably something like that. Or I think it would be super fun to like own a petting zoo.
Okay.
I just would really, I think it'd be really fun I'm a huge animal lover, hence the 3 dogs.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really fun to just have a petting zoo. But I would want it to be like a miniature, like a mini petting zoo. So all the animals are like mini horses or like mini, like baby goats and like teacup pigs. And
Okay, so we're going to have a business together because in my very first episode with Cooper's Ridge, this was my go-to question, and I want to have a farm, but I don't want to actually do anything farm-related. I just want all the animals.
Yes, yeah.
Brandy, who owns Cooper's Ridge.
Yeah, hasn't she had tons
She used
of animals?
to be a handler for tigers and monkeys.
That is crazy.
So the 3 of us could go into business.
Yeah, I think if the wedding industry hits the fan,
petting zoos.
That is going to be the next thing on the table.
We'll go to children's birthday parties with like our teacup pigs.
Yes, there's just so many things you can do. People love animals. It's regardless of who you are. Like everyone has a soft spot for some cute little like baby pony or something, you know? So
my 3-year-old right now is begging for a chameleon. That's not happening. I don't
even know
reptiles.
where you get a chameleon.
PetSmart, because he's seen them.
Oh, the more you know. I did not know that's more chameleons.
Worst. I don't do reptiles.
Yeah,
so
no,
we're
they
just gonna have to go to the
freak me
zoo for that one.
Yep.
But petting zoo, I'm in.
Yeah.
I want a little donkey.
Yeah, I had a miniature horse growing up. So I think that's also where that like love stems from. Yeah.
Oh.
So
where is he now?
She
Don't tell me about
was so mean.
Oh.
But considering I bought her when I was literally in middle school off of Craigslist for $300, I shouldn't have had such high hopes.
Bless your parents for letting you do that.
No, literally, I don't know how I got away with that, considering like I also have 3 other siblings that, looking back in hindsight, that was not fair at all. But I saved up my money and I bought her. Her name was Minnie Winnie. I bought Minnie Winnie, but Minnie Winnie did not stay with us long because Minnie Winnie was not nice. And now I understand why this woman literally only sold me for like $300 for her. It checks out.
She's
now.
like, please get this.
No,
mini
she was like,
horse.
actually get her
The
out
horse
of here.
had Napoleon,
Napoleon syndrome.
complex,
Yeah,
so
literally. No, so we ended up giving her, my grandma's neighbor, like, doesn't breed many horses, but she like has a whole bunch and shows them or whatever. And so she took her and like now she has besties and everything's fine. But that was probably just a stint to my petting zoo dream was when I had her. So. Maybe we'll pick it up one day, you know? Yeah, long live Minnie Winnie, definitely.
Hilarious. Well, Carley, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast.
Thanks for having
you
me.
were such a fun guest. Thank you for sharing everything that you did. Thank you for sharing your gift with the world.
Thank you.
We love working with you, and I hope we get to a million more times.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Okay, everybody, ta-ta. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's Pearls of Wisdom podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Miner with Delight Events. As always, you can find us all over the internet by following us on Instagram at Delight Events Mo and on Facebook. And please consider leaving us a review here for the podcast. Subscribe if you're on YouTube or on Spotify. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.